The camera revealed the front porch of a standard suburban home. The timestamp glowed dimly in the corner. 3:12:09. The porch light wasn't on. The moon wasn't visible. The only illumination was the faint glow of the camera LED itself, a cold mechanical eye. Then from the bottom of the frame, a figure started to appear, slowly, step by step, like it was learning how to move, bare feet scraped against stone. A long shadow filled the entryway before the person even fully stepped into view. It was a woman, her hair soaked to the scalp, plastered against the sides of her face. She wore what looked like a nightgown, white once, now stained gray and brown. Her right arm hung unnaturally low, like it was too heavy for her body to hold up. She didn't reach for the bell. She stood, staring directly into the camera, and she didn't blink. For almost 2 full minutes she didn't blink. Then, without lifting her arm or moving her feet, she opened her mouth, wide, and something came out. Not a scream, not a word, but a sound, a choked, wet gasp repeated again and again like she had forgotten how to breathe. The footage ended abruptly when the homeowner opened the door. The video cut off just before the door swung fully open, just before anything happened, like it didn't want anyone to see what came next. Opening Backstory.pdf explained everything the police never found out or didn't want to know. The woman in the video was named Claire Haverford, a 29-year-old schoolteacher reported missing 3 days earlier, after she failed to show up for work or respond to calls. She lived 14 blocks away from the house she appeared at in the footage. That house belonged to her ex-husband. He didn't see the video until police showed it to him. His statement was included in the document. That's not Claire. Claire doesn't walk like that. Claire doesn't make that noise. And Claire's arm wasn't like that. I know what she looks like. That thing wasn't my wife. But then came the most chilling part. The door never opened. That never happened. She wasn't there that night. I checked the footage myself. There was nobody at the door. Police logs confirmed it. When the footage was retrieved from the device, the clip didn't exist. It only appeared weeks later. In a cloud backup the owner claims he never set up. End of document. Evan sat back, his heart thudding under his ribs. He wasn't even halfway through the folder list, but already he felt a pressure at the back of his neck, like someone was standing a foot behind him. He closed the first window. His cursor hovered over the second folder. 02, the child in the driveway. He clicked. Evan closed the first folder, his pulse still racing from what he'd seen. He hadn't expected the footage to get under his skin so quickly, but there was something about the stillness of the woman, the unnatural way she stared. It felt less like a haunting and more like a warning. He tried to clear his throat, as if the air itself had thickened while he watched. He exhaled slowly, then moved his mouse to the next folder, 02, the child in the driveway. Inside the folder were 2 files, driveway.cam footage July 22, 2020.mkv, backstory.pdf. He hesitated before clicking the video. Something inside him, maybe instinct, maybe fear, said to stop, to take a break. The room felt colder now, the silence heavier, but he clicked anyway. The footage was sharper this time. The home looked modern, the yard clean and well-maintained. Porch lights glowed off to the side, and although the hour was late, the scene looked oddly peaceful. Until, near the edge of the driveway, a tiny movement caught the motion sensor. Something small was approaching the house. At first, Evan thought it was an animal, a raccoon or maybe a coyote, but the closer it came, the more unsettling the shape became. Slender, upright, and wearing what looked like pajamas. A child, a boy of maybe 7 or 8, wearing a t-shirt and shorts, no shoes, no flashlight, just standing at the base of the driveway, staring up at the camera. His head was tilted and his face, though lit, revealed nothing but blank curiosity. No fear, no expression, no tears, only the cold aimlessness of a sleepwalker, frozen where he stood. After 16 seconds, he took a single step forward. Then another, and another. Until he was standing no more than 8 feet from the front door. He didn't ring the bell, didn't raise his hand. Just stared directly into the camera, as if trying to see through it. His eyes wide, unblinking, his lips slightly parted. The timestamp changed to 11:48:32 p.m. Then, out of nowhere, he turned, not slowly, not naturally, but sharply. Suddenly, like a marionette who heard its puppeteer, and the child walked back down the driveway, then out of frame. But the video didn't end. It lingered for almost 2 more minutes. The homeowner opened the door just before the clip cut off, and like the previous video, the end was missing. The moment that mattered most was gone. Only the footage of the child remained. Evan opened Backstory.pdf, and a chill bit at the back of his ribs before he'd even read a word. The document was straightforward and horrifying. The boy in the footage was identified as Lucas Baird, a missing child from 2 towns over, reported missing 3 weeks before the footage was captured. His mother told police he disappeared from his bed sometime between 10:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. His shoes were still in the corner. His window was still locked. His room is undisturbed. A search ensued. Flyers were printed, the usual, until the footage surfaced, except, and this was where the story broke all logic. Lucas was not the only child reported missing that month. A total of 5 children between the ages of 6 and 10 had been reported gone, and every single one of them was seen on doorbell footage within 24 to 48 hours of their disappearance, standing silently in strangers' driveways at night, not moving, not speaking, not trying to get help, just standing. The document ended in a chillingly calm fashion. We don't know if the children are walking home or being sent back. We don't know if we're seeing them after they've already died or before, but one thing is certain: they do not knock. They only return. Evan leaned back in his chair, letting out a shivering breath. This didn't feel like horror fiction, not like the videos he usually reacts to in his channel. No jump scares, no CGI, no ghost stories. Just a series of impossible events caught by normal people's doorbells. He closed the window, then opened the next folder, 03. The faces in the fog, and as the file list popped up, his power flickered, just for a second, just long enough to look like something, or someone, had passed between him and the screen. The cursor blinked, and the room suddenly felt way too quiet. Evan rubbed at his eyes, trying to process what he'd just seen. 2 clips in, and already he knew something was different about this compilation. Something intentional, something curated, as if these videos weren't just surveillance footage, but messages. The first 2 folders made no attempt to shock. There were no sudden screams, no supernatural figures, just unbearably still people and children showing up in places they shouldn't be. Not screaming for help, not trying to get inside, just watching, waiting. But it was the patterns that scared him most. Missing people, footage that wasn't supposed to exist, even according to the homeowners. Final moments cut off, and the woman who sent it, Melissa, missing too. He let out a shaky breath, then clicked into the 3rd folder, 03, the faces in the fog. Just like the others, 2 files were inside. Doorbell.night fog, February 4th, 2019.pdf. A small JPG sheet. However, it contained something written up in a video before. He didn't know why, maybe to put it off, maybe to avoid knowing what she was trying to say. He hit play. The footage was grainy, old. This wasn't a newer camera like the others. The timestamp was faded, glitchy, barely legible. 4:13:7. The porch was wide, wooden, with chipped white paint and a rocking chair that swayed slightly. Not from wind, but from slow rot. Everything was blanketed in a dense crawling fog, the kind that swallowed sound and swallowed shape. But the motion detector had been tripped. Someone, or something, was out there. It wasn't visible at first, not until the camera zoomed in, refocusing automatically. Then the fog shifted. First one face, then another, and another, figures. Standing just beyond the visibility line, human, upright, facing the house, but not moving. They were barely more than silhouettes, but their faces were visible, not lit, not animated, but illuminated by some unseen light of their own, like the fog itself was making sure they could be seen. There were 7 of them, all spaced apart, equal distances from each other, all staring directly at the porch door. One of them, near the right edge of the frame, was visibly smiling, wide, too wide, like the bones weren't built for it. The other faces were blank, empty, eyeless shadows with just enough facial structure to imply they used to be alive. As the footage played, the porch light turned on automatically. But the faces didn't change, didn't react, except one of them, the one in the middle of the group. She stepped forward, and as she did, The fog parted around her like curtains. Her eyes were open. Too open. The whites are shining. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The footage ended abruptly. Evan stared. Frozen. These weren't the same as the others. The first videos were people in the world behaving strangely, lost children, a woman from home. But this looked like people returning, people who weren't supposed to be here anymore. He swallowed hard and finally opened the Backstory PDF. The document revealed the location: College Park, Maryland, the year, 2019. The homeowners, Mr. and Mrs. Ellison, retired, no children. The event occurred during a period of shared hallucinations reported by 5 residents in the neighborhood, each claiming to have seen faces, human figures, in the fog around the same time. But here's what made the case stand out. Every single homeowner described the same number of figures, the same spacing, and the same placement, regardless of angle or property. It was as if the figures weren't appearing to the individual homeowners, but appearing to the street itself. A thumbnail image was included. A small black and white picture of 7 silhouettes standing at the exact same distance from 7 different houses. If Evan didn't know better, he'd have thought it was photoshopped. Except the image from Melissa was dated before Photoshop existed. And then he opened the third file. Note from Melissa.jpg. It was a photo of a handwritten message, unsteady, ink bleeding through the paper, written in all caps. Don't let them in, they can't cross until you open the door. Below that, in different handwriting, messier, somehow more rushed, were 3 scratched words. They remember us. Evan stared at the note until his eyes stung. The implication was clear. These weren't strangers. These were the people who went missing. These were the people who never made it back inside. And now they were returning to strangers' doors, silent, patient, waiting for someone to let them back into the world. Evan felt something shift in the room. He clenched his teeth, forced himself to move, closed the folder. The next one stared back. 04. The package that never made it inside. His phone buzzed beside him with a notification. He flinched. Unknown number. No preview. Just one new message. He swallowed, heart pounding. He didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he clicked into the next folder. Because now, more than ever, he needed to know how this ends. All right, continuing the story. Evan's heart was still thudding from the fog video, the faces, the way they stood so still, so patient, so aware. It was getting harder to tell whether this was a horror compilation, or a countdown, a warning, or a confession. He ignored his phone. Whatever message had come in could wait until he was done. Melissa wasn't finished speaking, and somehow after watching the past 3 clips he felt, or knew, that if he stopped now, something would follow. Something that didn't wait outside. He clicked into folder 4, 04. The package that never made it inside. As usual, there were 2 files, porchdelivery.cam.september18th22.mov, backstory.pdf. Nothing else. He clicked the video. This one was different. Daylight. Birds chirped faintly. The wind carried leaves across a well-kept front walk. It looked so normal, so painfully normal, that the footage felt like a relief. A reprieve from everything so far. A mail truck pulled up to the curb. A young delivery worker stepped out, carrying a medium-sized box stamped with black lettering. She approached the porch, set it down. She stood. I looked at the camera, smiled, then turned to leave. Nothing strange, nothing unnatural, nothing horrifying. Until she got back into her truck, and a second person walked into frame. He wasn't dressed like a delivery worker. No uniform, no badge, no official vehicle. He came up to the box quickly, too quickly, grabbed it, turned, and then he stopped, looked up at the camera, paused a moment longer than he should have. Evan leaned closer. The man smiled, then his lips moved, but there was no sound. The clip continued, and Evan tried to rewind. The man had definitely said something directed at the camera. The footage then cut to a wide angle of the lawn. 2 neighbors were now outside, talking, pointing at the porch, then pointing up the street. One of them was holding something in their hands, something electronic. Evan paused and squinted. It was their phone. They'd already seen the footage, and yet no one retrieved the package. Not the homeowner, not the original delivery driver, not anyone. The video ended, the box was still gone. The homeowner never opened the door. And the man who took the package never left a record of who he was, but something else was bothering Evan. The timestamp, 2:54 p.m., the middle of the afternoon. All the previous footage had one thing in common: night, darkness, silence, but this one had sunlight, and still managed to bury a threat in plain sight. He opened the Backstory PDF. The package was addressed to Hannah Pierce, a 63-year-old widow who lived alone. The delivery was confirmed by the carrier. The package was documented in tracking logs. But the homeowner never filed a theft report. In fact, she insisted the package had been delivered directly into her hands and even signed for it. Except she didn't. Her signature was faked. And the delivery worker confirmed she never saw Hannah in person that day. The backstory continued. The package wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that the person who took it was seen in 3 other doorbell videos, always just before someone went missing. It listed 3 names: Evan Priestley, disappeared 2019; Laura Dempsey, disappeared 2020; Cara Leon, disappeared 2021. All missing, all last seen at their homes. All of them had packages delivered on their final recorded day. And all of their packages were intercepted by the same man, identified only as a courier, never seen again after each abduction. The PDF ended with a handwritten note, added by someone other than Melissa. The handwriting was different, jagged, like someone was in a hurry to finish before they were interrupted. If he takes something from your door, he doesn't leave empty-handed. Evan stared at the screen. That man wasn't just stealing boxes, he was replacing them, taking something from inside the house instead. Someone. He shivered, his eyes darting toward his own front door. For the first time in weeks, he wondered if he had forgotten to lock it. His phone buzzed again. Same number, same previewless notification. He forced himself to ignore it. Just 2 folders left, one titled, "They Came in Pairs," the other, "Melissa." He clicked the next folder. Evan didn't move for a long time. He just stared at the folder titled 05. They came in pairs, feeling the room drop in temperature again. Or maybe that was just the fear crawling under his skin. Everything connected. Everything was building towards something. It wasn't just horror. It was a pattern. Dead people at the door, missing children returning to strangers, fog hiding familiar faces, a man replacing deliveries with disappearances. And now this. He clicked. Inside were the usual 2 files: double.doorbell.footage.comp.mov, backstory.pdf. He clicked the video first. It began with a double-pane image. 2 homes side by side, 2 different doorbell views. Evan leaned in, confused, 2 feeds at once. Same street, same timestamp, 10:43 p.m. On the left camera, a middle-aged man exited his house. He looked annoyed. He muttered something, no audio, and waved off unseen figures. On the right camera, a woman opened her front door at the same time. She was smiling at first, then she froze. The man on the left stepped outside, unaware. The woman on the right stepped back, horrified, because they were both seeing the same thing. 2 figures standing side by side in the street, unmoving, facing both homes at once. One taller, one shorter, one adult height, one child height, and something about the angle made them look like they were showing up in both feeds at once, as if there were invisible mirrors lining the neighborhood. The child's head tilted, slowly, deliberately, and the streetlight flickered where they stood. The woman on the right tried to close her door. The man on the left stepped forward, not noticing them at all. Then the figures moved, not toward either house, but toward each other, coming together, like they were being called from both sides. And just before the figures met, the cameras both glitched, a bright burst of static, and the feed cut out completely. When the video resumed 19 seconds later, both homeowners were gone. Porch lights still on, doors still open. The street is empty. Evan inhaled through his teeth, a painful realization rising in the back of his throat. It wasn't only the missing returning. It wasn't only the living being taken. Something was trading places. He opened the backstory. The 2 vanished homeowners were neighbors, good friends. I lived on the same street for a decade. Both disappeared on the same night, neither ever found. But here's what stood out. Both had doorbell alerts triggered at the same exact second, according to data logs, And 3 minutes later, two new figures appeared on the same street corner, captured by a passing security vehicle. One adult height, one child height, neither recognizable, both barefoot, both facing the houses they had just come from. The report ended with a strange headline from an online forum: "We don't know where they're going. We only know that they leave one for one. They don't multiply. They exchange." At the bottom, handwritten in Melissa's familiar shaky scrawl: "If two go missing at once, one comes back wrong." Evan's blood went cold. The folder names, the children on the driveways, the woman at the wrong house, the fog watchers, the courier. It wasn't random. It was a system, like something or someone was collecting us, and sometimes sending pieces back. He stared at the final folder, 06, Melissa, and before he clicked it, his phone buzzed again. This time, the lock screen lit up with the full text of the message: "I'm at your door." And the number wasn't unknown anymore. It was Melissa's, the woman who had disappeared, the one who had sent him the footage, the one who had watched all these things happen before she vanished. He didn't turn around. He forced himself to click the final folder. Inside were 3 files: doorbell.cam.footage, melissa.mpg, voice note.wav, final.message.txt. He started with the video. It was short, 25 seconds. The camera was angled upward slightly, showing only the lower half of a person standing at the door, bare feet, torn jeans, jumping onto the welcome mat, too dark to be water. A familiar voice spoke from behind the door, soft, exhausted. "Do I look okay?" It was Melissa. But the person outside never answered. The video ended. Evan didn't breathe for several long seconds. He knew what he was supposed to click next, but for a moment he couldn't move. Finally, with all the force of someone tearing out stitches, he opened final-txt. "I'm not gone. I'm at every door that answers too late. Every face that wasn't recognized, every child that wasn't stopped, every package that was accepted, every fog that landed with a watcher. Every time a door is opened, a choice is made, and if one of them gets in, one of us gets out. But we don't come back the same." At the bottom was one final line, in Melissa's fading handwriting: "When you hear the doorbell, don't look, don't answer, don't open anything." Evan's phone vibrated one last time. A live alert from his own doorbell camera. Motion detected. Front door, one person. He clicked. The app opened, and there on the feed stood a figure. Not moving. Not knocking. Just watching. Bare feet, head tilted, smiling a little too wide, and on the phone screen below the camera view was a familiar notification: "Melissa Grayson, ringing at your door." The feed was cut out, and Evan realized too late what she'd meant by her first email. "Don't look for me, just look at them." Everything from the first video to the last had one message in common: not all who return are whole, not all who disappear are taken, and not every door should be opened. Even when the person outside used to be someone you loved, these videos weren't just documenting supernatural behavior, they were tracking a transition, a shift where the missing, the taken, and the broken return, not as themselves but as carriers of something else, something that waits at the edge of porch lights, something that remembers how to smile. And now Evan sits in a dark room, knowing there's one single decision left that decides whether he joins those who vanished, or becomes one of those who come back wrong. His hand trembles. The doorbell rings. One last time. The choice is yours. Would you open it?